My name is Sarah White, and I did my internship with Robinson Manufacturing in the Human Resources Department. So the introduction of this company, Robinson is a apparel company where they manufacture and distribute. Robinson has 5 plants in Dayton. So, and these 5 plants specialize in activewear, child and adult sleepwear, Nike, and undergarment apparel. So those are their 4 sectors of which they produce and then distribute. And Robinson also has a factory in Mexico that sews the garment. So once the garment is cut and styled and shaped, then it is sent off to Mexico to be sewn, and then they send it back for embellishments and designs and the finishing touches to be put on the garment. Robinson actually used to do all the sewing on site, but they found that it was cheaper to offshore and send the garments to Mexico where the wages are lower, and then they would ship it back, and like I said, we would put the embellishments on it. So a little bit of history about Robinson. It was opened in 1927, and it was founded by Fred C. Robinson, and it was originally located in Evansville, Tennessee. Later in the 1930s, Robinson Manufacturing moved to Dayton, and it has stayed in its current location since 1930. It has expanded, but its administration building is the same. Later in the 1960s, Jack Robinson, the second generation of the Robinson family, becomes president and CEO. Continuing on in the 90s, the facility in Mexico opens, and in the 2000s, the distribution facilities in Tennessee, so the 5 plants that I was talking about right in Tennessee, right in Dayton, opened. And then in 2010, the current owner and CEO, Patrick Robinson, becomes president and CEO. So why I chose Robinson to do an internship? Well, honestly, I was really hoping at the beginning of the summer to get an internship with Enterprise Rent-A-Car because they, from what I learned in the interview process, they give you a really well-rounded internship. So you kind of get to touch on all the different facets of business. So human resources, marketing, sales, customer relations, all those sorts of things. So that was really what I was aiming for. But when I made it to nationals, I wouldn't have been able to make it back for the start date and also the last interview. And it was all the way up in Ohio. So and the start date was really important because the first week was in class, so all the interns would start at the same time, and there wasn't much wiggle room with that, especially since it was a bigger company and they had their ways of doing things. And so Dr. Scruggs and Gatlin actually got me this internship when I came back to school this semester, and I did not have an internship, and they pulled it together for me really nicely. So I'm really blessed and thankful for this opportunity. And also knowing that it was going to be in human resources was really exciting for me because this is a field that I have been interested in for a while, actually ever since I took Leadership and Managing Change. Probably the closest human resources class that I've taken at Bryan. I've been really interested in that field, so it was really exciting knowing that I would get to do an internship in human resources. The duties and responsibilities of this internship, well, really there was quite a few, because in a smaller company such as Robinson, there's only 3 people in the human resources department. So really all the duties kind of get spread out and, well, I guess clumped together, and everybody has to do a little bit of everything. And their human resources department is fairly new, so they're still trying to figure out how everything is going to work and how many employees they need and how that's going to become a working machine and become efficient. So basically the duties and responsibilities of this internship is kind of across the board. So I would sit in on interviews, and this just involved me, just as it sounds, I would sit in on interviews, and really I never got into asking questions or interviewing them myself. I would just listen and observe. And then going along with this, I would fill out new hire forms. So once an employee or a future employee comes in and they are either hired or sent to the second round of interviews, depending on the job, they were interviewing for, I would go ahead and make a new hire file for them, or just a file for them in general, so that way they have their place in the company. And basically this just includes their application and their payroll slip, so they can go ahead and be entered on payroll. And then I would file them. And then also I would call applicants for interviews, so I would do the scheduling and set up what times are good for them to come in. Generally it was the day after I called or the day after. So one, you were interviewing for factory positions, it's a little bit less formal, so we were able to get them in pretty quick. The next major facet that we focused on in the Human Resource Department was payroll, and this was a wide variety of things, but the main things I guess I could limit it to was putting in new employees' payroll. So making sure that when that first week rolls around, because at Robinson everybody in the factories gets paid once a week, so making sure that once that first week rolls around, they have a paycheck waiting for them. And then also going along with this, in the same way, we would make sure the people that were terminated, that they are off the payroll and they were no longer receiving checks. And also, at Robinson, every 30, 60, and 90 days, you are eligible just when you start out. So your first 30, 60, and 90 days, you are eligible for a raise. So most people start at $8 an hour, and they can work up to anywhere from $10 to $12 an hour, I've seen, and they can continue to get raises, but this is the main time period that they get raises, and these raises are based off of job performance, job attitude, attendance. So if the supervisor feels that that employee has met those goals, then they will see that they get a raise. The next facet that we focused on was child support. So basically, this was just the state sending us paperwork saying that this existing or new employee needs to have child support taken out of their weekly check, and so we would go ahead and enter that in our company-wide database, and we would make sure that the appropriate amount is getting taken out and sent back to the state, and once it was sent back to the state, then the state would send it to the party that is receiving the child support. So we had those weekly. That was pretty often. And then lastly, insurance was the big main thing that we focused on. Once again, at Robinson, after 90 days, you're available for insurance, and Robinson offers dental, vision, and medical, and so the employees have a choice of which three they want, or if they want any at all, or if they just want vision, or if they just want dental, or if they just want medical. So they kind of have some wiggle room in the choices that of what they want to have as far as insurance. And then also we add on family members, so if they put in an application saying that we're requesting for insurance for their child or for their spouse, then we go ahead and enter that in their file as well, in our database. And just making sure that those are appropriately deducted from their weekly checks. So weekly tasks is really, it was kind of along the lines of everything I just described. Like I said earlier, since Robinson is a smaller company, we really do all the different facets. We don't really just focus on one. So really whatever was most immediate at that time, we would go ahead and do. And so that was nice. It was a nice mix up every day with something different to do. So I enjoyed that. So interviews, we probably had 1 or 2 weekly, so that wasn't necessarily every day. And payroll was the majority of what we did in our weekly tasks, because like I said, they get paid weekly instead of every 2 weeks or every month. So since they get paid weekly, they get paid on Friday, and then right away we have to start the next week. We have to start getting everybody's payroll in check. And when there's only 3 people working in human resources and there's about 400 to 500 different employees, it does take a while, on top of making sure the child support and insurance and interviews and all the other paperwork that comes with human resources is in place. So yeah, payroll was the biggest thing, and child support was probably the next biggest thing, making sure that the child support was sent out to the state. And insurance, considering they're only available or they're only eligible for insurance after 90 days, of working there. Insurance wasn't as common, but we would still probably do that about once or twice a week. So it was there. But yeah, so really whatever was just most immediate at the time to do is what we did. Some reflections and defining moments. I really realized that I want to work a little bit more hands-on with people. Doing paperwork and making sure all of their bills are in order and all the things that they have responsibilities to pay are being paid. That is definitely a big help for them, especially if they don't have a lot of knowledge on the topic of how to operate that, because a lot of our workers that applied were very young considering their factory openings. So they have a lot on their plate and they don't necessarily know how to handle all of it. So that was nice, just being able to input in that way and help in their lives in that way. But I really enjoyed the slim time. It was probably about 85% paperwork and 15% actual, outside interaction with people. And that really just came through interviewing and then calling to schedule interviews. So I just kind of realized that I would like to work a little bit more hands-on with people. And I didn't know that, actually, before this internship. I thought that I would like to kind of do the behind-the-scenes work and do the paperwork and do the nitty-gritty stuff, such as this internship was. Nitty-gritty in a good way. But I found out that I do like a little bit more on the people side and the direct interaction with them. And then also, one of the really cool things is, since Robinson is a small company, I was able to build some really great relationships, and there's one lady that I still go out to lunch with, so it's been cool just seeing those relationships form. And then how this job related to my major and the courses that I've taken, really it directly relates to my management classes specifically. It did hit a little bit on accounting, not as much finance, just because software systems are so prevalent today. It's not as necessary. So just things as far as spreadsheets was really the only thing that we hit on as far as accounting and finance goes. And the rest of it was a lot of leadership, managing change. I was able to directly apply some of those things and see that in work hands-on. And then of course productions and operations management, I was able to see that, considering it is a manufacturing facility and a manufacturing company. So with the hypothesis papers that we did in leadership, it was cool to see what drives people in relationship-oriented leaders versus task-oriented leaders. And because I would go out with Nathan Snyder, my boss, and we would go to the different plants, and we would get to talk with the employees and then with their supervisors. And it was interesting to see the supervisors interact with the employees and see the different leadership styles that they had, because each did have different leadership styles. It wasn't across the board, and I don't think that that's something I would have been able to pick out before I would have taken leadership. So that was pretty cool to see that, and then to see if the employees were intrinsically or extrinsically motivated. I think that was cool. Since we do the raises every 30 and 60, 90 days, I think that's that's a direct representation of extrinsic motivators. So that was pretty cool to see. And then of course productions and operations management, it's a production in manufacturing facility, so being able to walk through the factories and seeing how the factory flowed and seeing the most efficient ways that they've done things, that's been cool to directly apply. So what I loved and what I disliked about this internship, I love the people that I work with. Like I said earlier, it's a small company, so it was really nice just to be able to form relationships with people and also just be able to ask questions and without feeling that I'm bothering somebody or negging. But they were so open and so willing to answer my questions and help me learn and also take time out of their day. So I loved that aspect, that they were just so welcoming. And going along with that, I really liked the small company feel. Everybody knows everybody, so if you were in your office, or for me, cubicle, people would just stick their head in and say hi, and say, how was your day? So that was kind of nice, just to be able to directly know people. And I think in a big company, sometimes that gets taken away, just with the hustle and bustle and the big atmosphere feel. I liked the personal interaction that I got with customers. This was few and far between. Like I said, it was probably about 85% paperwork and about 15% human interaction, with outside people, not with employees, because I did get a lot of interaction with employees, and that was nice. But I think that I would like to directly work with the outside people a little bit more. But so I liked that aspect. What I didn't like was kind of just going off of what I just said. I know there's paperwork to every job, but when the paperwork kind of outweighs the interaction that you're having with people, that's hard for me, because yeah, you're still helping people, and it is helping people in a very real way, but I would personally like to do a little bit more hands-on work and upfront work with people. So I don't know what that's going to look like in the future, but I do know that that's something that I would like to have, at least as far as a long-term job goes. And then future job consideration in this job, or in this field, and in this company, I would definitely, HR is still an interest of mine. The internship went well, and I did enjoy learning all the different facets of human resources. So it was nice that it was a smaller company, and that I got to see kind of all the different aspects of that. So that was cool. But I do think that I would like to do a little bit more of maybe the hiring part and interacting with interviewees, and I guess just firing comes along with that, and not something that I would necessarily like to do, but that's just part of the job description. Maybe I would like to do the people side instead of the insurance and the payroll and stuff like that. The stuff that's behind the scenes, still very important and very helpful for people, but just behind the scenes. And yes, I would love to work for this company. It's just a really small-knit group of people, or tight-knit group of people, and it's just a laid-back atmosphere, and they were so welcoming and loving and open to questions and learning, and helping me learn. So that was really nice. And currently there's no human resources positions open in Robinson, but if there were any that opened up, or if there's a job that I see in Robinson that I could see myself doing, either short-term or long-term, I would definitely consider applying. So it was a really, really great opportunity, and I enjoyed it, and I'm very thankful for the experience. So thank you for listening.